Hey, welcome back to Fire Engineering's Humpday Hangout and to our show, Issues and Challenges in Today's Fire Service. We've been doing, I just thought about this, guys. We've been doing Issues and Challenges, golly, John, since you and I were doing it with Bobby on the stage in the big room, and then it became a Humpday Hangout years and years ago, and it's changed over the years. We lost Bobby, and then we different people back and forth, but we've always had an all-star team together. So, folks, I'm here with we have one member missing. One of our regular cast members today. Chief Scott Thompson is in a meeting. That happens when you are the fire chief. Chief Taylor knows that. That all of a sudden somebody at City Hall says you need to come over here. So Scott will be with us next. Author of the best-selling book, The Functional Fire Company. So if you're one of our viewers, make sure you hit Scott Thompson on a text message and say they were pushing your book again. But Scott will be with us next month. So Scott, John, and Curtis will be running things. I think I'm out, but we've got another great show lined up for you. We always remind you, if you have any questions, please zip over to X and send them our way, and our producer Mark will do his best to get them to us. I always apologize, guys. Sometimes we can't get to them all. There's usually a lineup of them. Or people are hitting me when we're there. But we've got another good topic for you. As always, we come up with it last minute. It's always off the cuff. We've talked about this issue before, but there's a reason why we have the people with us today, and I'll tell you that in a second. But today our topic is recruiting tomorrow's firefighters. And the subhead we called it was the Pearland, Texas way. And joining us today, besides one of our partners on the show, Assistant Chief Curtis Bird, who's the Ops Chief for Pearland, but is his partner in crime there, Assistant Chief Jacob Johnson. Most of you know Jacob. He's either taught for you or you've seen him at FDIC, the big conferences. And our good friend, if you listen to the show at all, you hear us refer to him often. I'm not trying to embarrass him, but Chief Jay Taylor, who's been with us before. But guys, welcome back.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Well, and Jay, I'll just throw this right at you. John and I were just talking about this a little while ago about the recruitment issues, and we're going to bring this all up because there's a lot. We brag on you guys because when we call it the Pearland, Texas way is because there's people that do it right. There's people that don't have a clue. And when I'm in class, John, you've heard me say it millions of times. We suck at recruitment and retention as a whole in the fire service. We put a blinking sign outside. We go to old people's social media on Facebook, as John calls it. And you know, you can barely read some of the ads, and there's nothing, you know, it's all about marketing. It's all about the hook. It's all about, you know, what's going to draw them to your place. And nowadays you can't, John, let me go to John real quick. John, you and I were just talking about, you can't go to any social media platform, right, buddy, without seeing an ad for somebody who's hiring, right? Do you remember what it was like in the old days, John?
You know, just to address the first thing you said, yeah, on social media, I'm not a big social media fanatic, but, you know, on Facebook, I'm on Facebook, you know, once or twice a day, checking stuff out. And on those reels and sometimes regular entries that people put posts, you know, you see these beautifully made, laid out advertisements, we're hiring and, you know, join our team, and great pictures of rigs and guys with the helmets and the mustaches and, you know, everybody 24, 48s and 58,000 starting salary after 3 years, 77. And I mean, it just goes on and on and on at hundreds of places you never heard of before, practically states you never heard of before. And that's not the way it always used to be. It always used to be the other way around. It always used to be, you know, you get together with a couple of guys, or even if you did it yourself, depending on how things were, you know, running around taking tests here on Saturday, take a test Saturday morning in one place, test Saturday afternoon in another place to try and get on a job somewhere. Guys were always, you know, social media wasn't as predominant or as available, as widespread as it is today. But you'd hit that if you could, if that existed. And before then, you'd have to look it up. You'd have to, you know, I can't even remember where you looked stuff up before there was an internet, to tell you the truth. But, you know, see who was hiring, or you'd call your buddies. You'd call, you know, Presser or Timmy Klett, or, you know, somebody that you knew from somewhere else. Hey, are they hiring in the Chicago area? That's how you used to get on. And one last point about it before we get into the rest of the show is, used to be that and we still are, I guess we still are popular and people still do like, and we still are respected firefighters. But it used to be, it was, you know, you didn't have to advertise. There was always a list of guys, a line of guys at the door waiting to get hired. Are you hiring anybody? Knocking the door. Any openings here? You guys hiring anybody? and now we got to sort of go out and drag it in a little bit more. And I guess it's just a sign of the times, new generations, new work ethic in America, or whatever it might be. I'm not being judgmental, which is unlike me, but there's a lot of things that play a role in that. But you got to go out. You got to go out and look for people. You just can't take the first 2 people off the line anymore.
Well, exactly. That was kind of my exaggeration, that a blinking sign outside is no longer the hook. We used to think it was quite odd that we even went to fire academies or paramedic schools to talk to people, say, hey, when you're out of here, come see us and all that stuff and so on and so forth. But it's actually, when you see the money they're throwing at people, like you said, the sign-on bonuses, like you said, we'd go somewhere, 3 of us in a car on a Saturday, take 3 tests to hope to get on a list with no openings and hope somebody like retires or dies so we can get a job. And now, we're shuffling around. So I still think it's vitally important to set the hook the right way. Number one, when you talk about recruitment, you got to get out to your community. You got to go to the colleges. You've got to know where you're recruiting. If you want to recruit good people, go to some of the churches. If you're looking for, we've got some incredible female firefighters that we work with. Some of our best friends are female chiefs and officers. But, I coached my daughter's softball team for a long time. Go to the colleges, talk to some of the girls that are playing softball already, that are playing volleyball, whatever, that are maybe a inch ahead of someone else that doesn't work out as much. And before you know it, you've got that diverse workforce. You've got everybody represented there, and you're doing great. Like I said, some of our best friends doing phenomenal things. But I want to throw this to Chief Taylor first, to Jay, because there's a reason why we called this, the subhead was the Pearland, Texas way. You guys advertise a lot, just like everybody else. There's no longer 2 and 3 year lists that people put together and wait. The FDNY does, but I mean, even still. But so Jay, you've been doing this a long time. You've worked for a couple of great places. Irving was one of them. What are you doing in Pearland that you'd share with the rest of the fire service that you think are some of the hooks, some of the things that other people need to look at if they want to recruit? Because you guys have John, you and I've been there umpteen times. You guys have a great roster full of great people. What are some of the things besides your great people attracting people? What do you do to hook them, to get them to come to Pearland?
Well, first of all, Rick, you have to have great people to attract great people. And so when I came down to Pearland initially, coming from the Dallas-Fort Worth area to the greater Houston area and Pearland, I knew nothing about Pearland. And once I started researching, I realized there was a lot of similarities to the department I grew up in Irving. This city's blowing up. It's growing into a large city. It's roughly just under 150,000 that we serve now, a little over 160 with the ETJs we go down into. But I learned really quickly that I inherited a lot of very talented, great people that are very passionate about the fire service. When I was here for the interview process, we sat at lunch and sat across from Curtis, and I said, Curtis, what's the Pearland way? And he slapped the table. He goes, I was thinking the same thing. He goes, that's what we need to define. And I said, what is it? And I wasn't hired here yet, but we're already talking about how we're going to get this thing going, because everybody's in the same boat. Everybody has the same challenges. You're trying to add quality people to your staffs and attracting those quality people. And how do you do that? And it's not when you advertise for the position, it's what's in between that. What would be put in place in between that? For us, it's identifying for us first, what is the Pearland way? And that's all goes back to our deployment models and looking at our 6 most common occupancies that we fight fire in, how we're going to fight that fire, and how we're going to build our deployment models based on that, how we're going to assign our tasks on scene, how we're going to build that. And then conversely, how we're going to build our apparatus to fit that deployment model. But then at the same time, we're marketing all that. We're marketing the new apparatus, the war wagons that we designed that have made, gotten national exposure, how we design those, what that's done for us, but the branding and putting that out there, letting people see what we do and how progressive we are. And that people talk about being blue collar firefighters, but they haven't done it long enough to even understand what that really means. We've got people here that have, and we understand what smartly aggressive firefighting is. That's what we talk about here in Pearland. We're smartly aggressive. And I think that somebody can have that concept of, I want to go be blue collar. And sometimes that means I just don't want to do what command staff says. I want to do it the way I think it should be done. And that's not how it is. We've got a set way we do it for the to provide the best services we possibly can for our community. We've set that in place, and we've put that out there, and we show people that we're really big on hands-on training. We're trying to regionalize our training here. We bring people in from over 20 different states, 3 different countries, 40,000 hours of training that we've done over the last year, and we're really enhancing that. You and John have been down here and invoked some leadership knowledge on all these folks and people from our surrounding departments, but they're coming to Pearland. They're seeing that we're bought into it from the top, from me down. And so we're bought into the fact that we're doing it aggressively, we're doing it smartly, and we're going to continue to be proactive and increase and get better in everything we do. And that even goes into our EMS side. We're an all hazards department. We do full ALS, EMS transport, and we're as proactive and we're just as focused to be the best we can be on the EMS side as we are on the fire side. We just implemented our whole blood program recently, gave whole blood this morning, had someone with a 4250 initial blood pressure and left with an 85 over 65, I believe is what it was, but they had a pretty bad car accident. But we're seeing a lot of therapeutic effects with that whole blood program. So the proactive new standard setting approach on the EMS side is just as important to us as it is on the fire side. And it's our responsibility, me as a fire chief, I'm the cheerleader, I'm the advocate, I'm the one that stands on the rooftops and shouts our successes to the whole world. And y'all been around me, you know, I have no problem saying, if you want to come be with the best, come to Pearland, and I'll stand there and back it up and go toe to toe with anybody on that, because I take pride in that and I believe in what we're doing. Because you can see the two I have sitting next to me here. I don't have to worry about a thing. If I'm gone, things get handled, things get done. We've got great leadership, and that's all the way down to the boots on the ground. And it's just keeping that mindset out there and letting people be aware of what Pearland does. It sets them apart, because when it comes down to it, if somebody wants to come take a test or is interested in Pearland, they're going to come to our firefighters first, and they're going to ask them to get the skinny on it. And so if we have a great culture, they're going to bring in those that they feel like fit our culture and continue to raise the bar that we're setting. But if they don't meet the standard, and there's a lot of them that try to come in here that don't meet the standard from some other departments around us that are bigger. Just because they're from a bigger department doesn't mean they bring the prowess and the knowledge base and the passion that we need here. We have passion. We can train you to do anything, but if you don't have the passion, you're not going to fit in Pearland, Texas.
Well, and you said it best. It starts at the top, and you are the ultimate. The fire chief is the ultimate we're all ambassadors for the fire service, our department, but you as the fire chief is the ultimate ambassador. And there's a lot of, Jacob, there's a lot of mirages out there. There's a lot of, you see this, and there's a lot of, like guys like, man, look at what they're doing over in as John would say, Beeperville over there. Look at what they're doing. Oh my God. And you get there and you go, I went through this whole process. I'm glad I have a job, but this isn't what I was almost like tricked. This isn't what I thought it was. This isn't what I read. This is, the chief, we never see the chief, and they don't train us, and there's no leadership, and the company officers sit in a chair all day, and their guys are fighting and they're bitching about each other and all that, and Jay, you mentioned something about, I think Pearland's got some of the coolest looking rigs, and that's a big deal to me. Some of the hooks I like, Chief Thompson's got the mud flap says, "We'll come for you." And then John and I were talking, there was one we saw the other day that said, "If you're reading this, you're second due," that kind of thing. And I kind of like that little bit. But Jacob, what are some of because when I get to Curtis and John, there's a couple specific things I want to ask them about past experiences there, but what are some of the hooks? Chief just talked about a few. From your perch, what are some of the hooks in Pearland? You guys fight fires. You don't have to fight fires to be a great fire department, but you guys, you're out there, as they say in Bachelor, I was out there doing it, damn it. You guys are doing it. But what are some of the hooks from your end that you see that brings people to Pearland that other fire departments might want to go, hey, Chief, we need to think about that?
Right. And I think for us, Chief, I think our biggest hook is our mindset. And the fact that if you enter the doorsteps of the Pearland Fire Department, you're going to be elite, and you're going to have a winner's mindset. You're going to meet the expectations of the citizens. I think that we set that from day one in rookie school, and then we breed that and believe in that from Chief Taylor down. And I think that's what is something that is positive that our members go out and spread and they can talk about to everybody. It's something that I'm blessed enough to do 1 day or 2 days of PT with each probie class that comes through. And we have talks like that. And I have an expectation for them that we are the elite, and we will have elite mindsets and winners mindsets, and no one will train more than us. No one will prepare more than us. No one will be faster out the door than us because the citizens expect it. And at the end of the day, we're going to meet those expectations. But with that, I think that we have to, what we do in Pearland, what I wish others would do around us or across the nation, is not look at training as a division, but look at training as a culture.
God, I love that.
Yeah, and look at training that stabilizes your foundation and your mindset, that reinforces your elite mindset, your winner mindset, and really embody that. And I think that is something that we do here. That is our biggest recruitment tool, our biggest hook, is that we provide top level training, and we're not blind to the fact that there are people out there across this nation that do the job maybe the way that we want to do it. Maybe they have skills that are better than what we perform, or areas that we need to improve in. And we're humble in that approach. And we bring that training into Pearland, and not only to make our members better, but we offer it. And a lot of times we offer it for free to everyone around us, to bring them in and make them better, because for us, training isn't a division, it's a culture.
Well, and I liked how you said that, because there's some people that look at training as cumbersome. It's like, what time are we doing training today? Well, we got to go into this. You know what? Look, I understand how important it is to do the mandatory drug awareness, harassment training stuff. They're necessary. You know, John and I do a lot of consulting, and we get to see so many places still screw that stuff up. As simple as it is to follow the rules and not be mean to people and not say stupid stuff. But at the same time, you know, there's things that, you know, not everything's accept, but you know, it is the absolute, like you said, Jacob, the foundation between how successful you are and getting out the door. And just what you said right there, how many times, God, John and I have talked about where people, I got an email sitting in my folder right now of a guy going, what do I tell the young guys? Or what do I tell them and all this stuff? Because, you know, this different, they want to blame generations, which is all BS. Just, they're all different, figure it out and train them. But what you just said, you rattle off a bunch of things all at once. And one of them that I always key in, and John does too, is when we're together, is, you know, get out the door quick. You know, it's carrying the tools, be ready to do battle. We get, you know, you push in a little bit of that pride, a little bit of competition. Curtis, you and I worked on a department together. I won't say where the name was. People can get, you know, do what they want to do, I guess. But we worked for, we worked for America's Worst Fire Chief. Yeah, we still had fun. We still did things. We trained all the time. We did stuff. You know, between that department and then when you came down to Lake Cities and then Pearland, there's a reason why you went where you're at. You know, life was, you know, there was a lot of great things we had for you and your family, you and Phoebe and the kids and that, the boys. You got a kid and a job now. But what are the things that, you know, let's go back in time. What were the things that attracted you that you still think attract people to a particular department today? You know?
Yeah, I think that was what they were saying. You know, I was thinking about John, and I was having flashbacks of us doing the weekend travel thing to test at every department you could. You didn't care where you got on back in the day. And it was just getting on the job and making sure you could get there. And then maybe hopefully somewhere down the road, you could get somewhere that you had some pride in and that you fit into. But I think one of the things is just being in this job and being on this job and understanding that, like we say here, training's everything. Training's a culture. Training's what we do, but it's for the end result, and making training important and making it that way, and making everybody see what the end run is for when we're training and why we're training and how we're training. It's to make everybody better. It's to make everybody have the same way of doing things. It's so everybody goes home, and it's so everybody, all of our citizens go home. But it's where people care about that for the right reasons, not just a checkbox or not just something you got to do for the day, but then also understanding that we're doing this for them and we're doing this for us as a whole to keep it, because I want to be somewhere where I feel like I'm making a difference, and where even if I'm not the name on the front door or I'm not the name on something, at least we as a team were able to accomplish something. And it was for the right reasons, and it wasn't just to check a box, or it wasn't hollow. You know, here we really try to do things, and every time we do something or every time we come up with something, we don't take 6 months to do something. We take a month or two to do something, but we do it whole, and we do it for all the right reasons and for the people. Every day the three of us sit up here and we're looking at things that come up, or we look at issues we do. And number one, it's always, how does it affect the guys on the street, or how does it affect our mission or what we do every day? So being at a place like that where you can see, like I take the department you and I used to work for, it was terrible coming to work sometimes just because of the conflict and the animosity and the issues and the no real leadership and all that. We created our own. And for a while there, I would put our truck company up against any truck company in the country on all three shifts, because we made it that. We wanted that, and we had that desire, and we had a few bosses that would allow us to do it and would push us, and it was awesome. The atmosphere sucked, but the job was great. So, you're not going to always work for places where you skip and whistle into work every day, but always go in every day, making it better and thinking about what your real mission is and who your real mission's about,
Well, and you brought up, and I want to mention John. John, you've got kind of the ultimate hook out there. You spent 33 years with the busiest, biggest, one of the best fire departments in the world. In your eyes, and you say it the best. And you always tell me, people have heard me say it thousands of times, John. I tell people all the time, John will tell you, the FDNY is not perfect, but they do a lot of stuff right. It's easy to talk about the FDNY, how they recruit, and they even have some challenges. What I want you to comment on, you've done it before, I want you to compare Wichita, Kansas, which we love, great fire department, great people, 20-something stations, right? Something, along those lines, huge department. And Goose Creek, South Carolina. Your sons work at both. Your son, Brian, currently works for Goose Creek. Goose Creek is another growing department with some great leadership. They got a great boss. They got some great things going on there. My point is, you don't have to be the FDNY, God bless you, to recruit talent. You know what I'm saying? Brian's got some pretty hey, Goose Creek found Brian Sulka. All right. I'm just saying there's a lot of talent there. What do you think the difference is between a Wichita that you were standing there talking to guys, thinking, you always said, I was talking to guys from the Bronx, and Goose Creek, you and I have been to departments with one station. And I'm like, God, I'd work here in a heartbeat. These guys and gals are freaking awesome. Look they dressed the part, they played a part, they're serious, they train. Talk about the similarities between Wichita, Kansas, and Goose Creek, because they're both great fire departments. And what do you think their hook has been? Wichita's easy, come fight fires. Goose Creek's busy too, but we're talking South Carolina versus Kansas and sizes and everything else, but yet they both seem to recruit people.
Right. Well, first I wanted to comment what Chief Taylor said, which was so valid and so true, and such good advice for anybody who's listening in, who's maybe thinking about building a recruitment system or maybe changing their system. Is you gotta, I hate to use the word advertise, but you gotta advertise the positives, the pluses, and you gotta advertise reality as well. Like you just said, Rick. Some places pull you in, they hook you in on something, maybe an advertisement or a video or a flyer, and then you get there and maybe it's not quite what you thought it was, which could happen, and it could be unintentional and innocent. But I know there's a lot of places out there advertising right now and recruiting, let's call it, right? And they're recruiting to the boots on the ground. They're recruiting to the guys that they're trying to hire. You're not recruiting to guys that are a brand new guy joining a fire department, a brand new guy trying to get his first career job, doesn't care if you're an ISO, class 1 fire department. He just, and I've seen some funny ads on Facebook about that, but the thing is, you see people advertising hours and shifts and the kind of rigs that they have and their aggressive interior and things that mean a lot to guys that are riding the back step, quote unquote. Right. So that's important. I want to get into Wichita because it's interesting how Brian got hired there. I remember it was a couple of years ago now, but him and his wife were on a trip, not to reinvent themselves, but they had left South Carolina because of the vaccine issue with the COVID, and they were driving around in their bus, seeing the world and seeing the states and seeing the national parks, but he was also looking for a job. And I don't know how he ended up in Wichita. There was some kind of an app or something on his phone that people advertised when they were filing or when they were giving tests or when you could put an application in. And he ended up at Wichita and he stopped at a station. I remember him calling me saying, I'm at this firehouse and I think they're hiring. I saw something on the website. There's nobody here right now. It says to come to this address. And him and another guy, some other guy that didn't even know. It turns out him and this other guy ended up getting hired together. And this is and all of a sudden the rig pulls up. Doors open up. They back in. Captain walks over to them. What are you guys doing? You're here for? Oh, we heard you guys are hiring. Yeah, come on in. Go in the kitchen. Get a cup of coffee. We just had a little job. I got to clean up. I'll be right back. And before you know it, he's in the kitchen talking to some guys at the kitchen table with their bunker pants on, and dirty faces, having a cup of coffee. And Brian was so impressed with that. And then this captain came down and he said they had such an interesting conversation. So, what are you guys looking for? What the fact that Brian had already been a firefighter somewhere for a couple of years was good. Turned out to be good. And I remember at one point, my son said, "You know what? This captain at one point grabbed me." He said, "Come here for a second, son." And he put his hand over my shoulder. So we walked out onto the apparatus floor. He said, I just got to let you know, we're not looking for employees here. We're looking for firefighters. If you're really into the job, if you really want to do what this job requires and what we do here every day, then this is the place for you. And if you're just looking for certain hours or certain pay or certain pension," he said, "you should probably just, head on down the road and check the next place out." And my son was so impressed with that. And he ended up getting on the job there. And that fire department, and you and I he's not even there anymore. And I still keep beating the drum for Wichita. What a great fire department. What a great attitudes all those firefighters and company officers have every day. And like you said, you got a good attitude, I can teach you anything. You can stand on your head and spit wooden nickels. I can teach you how to do anything. You can juggle. You can do anything if you got a good attitude. And now Goose Creek, they end up heading back to the East Coast because they want to be closer to family and stuff. And so there he is down there in Goose Creek, which is a small fire department. I think they're building their fourth station out. It's a small fire department, but it's so great. And they're really in a process of sort of reinventing themselves. And I think Brian was one of the people that got swept up in that got hired. They're looking for young, new guys that have experience and love the job and really want to work hard. And he just told me recently that, and they've been hiring a lot of guys because some guys have been leaving. Guys that were, and I'm not saying they had a whole lot of them, but they're trying to let the guys go that like the recliners better than the jump seats, trying to let them go, and they're trying to hire the guys that want to go out and drill and train and do things. And he said they just did a little lateral class, I guess you call it. Guys that were trying to come in laterally from other departments around. And I'm making the numbers up because I don't remember the number, but it was a small number. 9 guys or 10 guys. They had 9 or 10 guys in the process from either neighboring or even farther away fire departments that were trying to come into Goose Creek. 9 guys. And when they got done with the process, they hired one. I said, "Is that good?" Brian said, "Yeah, that's good." Some guys think you come in with 3 years experience, you're just going to get hired because you already got firefighter 1 and you know what a Halligan looks like. You know what I'm saying? He said, but 7 or 8 of these guys didn't measure up. Nope, no thank you, no thank you, no thank you, no thank you. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. I think it's wonderful. That just happens to be a small example of it in that fire department with a little lateral program that they had. But the same thing with when you're hiring people from the outside, you see, and that's what we don't get to do in the FDNY. FDNY is a gigantic fire department. They just send the notice out. I don't even know how they advertise or how they recruit. I've seen ridiculous recruitment posters on bus stops in the Bronx. A picture of 2 or 3 firefighters with a helmet on, and all of them are groups. All of them depict firefighters who are from groups that we don't have large numbers of, right? And all the words on the advertisement were what the hours were, how many vacation days, unlimited medical leave, what the top pay was. And there was nothing on there about the job, about serving your fellow man, about an exciting, rewarding career, about, the skills that you can learn and all the real positive stuff that good young men and women are always looking for in a fire service job. And they don't advertise that. And then 40 or 50,000 people take the test and they end up with a 10,000 person list. And it sort of ends up like when your list comes up, you get hired, and unless you wash out, unless you're a real, I don't want to say dirtbag because everybody that washes out certainly isn't. Some people just do it for a while and say, well, I'm going back to the insurance company, I guess. But where you guys, meaning probably most of you guys and probably a lot of our listeners, they advertise and you can hire who you want. You can hire who you want, and if 12 people show up, you can hire 3 or 4 of them and tell the rest of them, this isn't going to work out, and that's wonderful. You have such better processes, than than these big civil service departments that generally attract lots and lots of people. And for the most part, I mean, my experience on my job was everybody was great. Most guys I worked with were fantastic. Any fire department would be happy to have them. And the fire department and the city happily provided the experience and the fire duty for you. So you end up having a little fun too. You know, I wanted to comment one more thing about training, because we all know training is important, but you could put people to sleep talking about training, you know, and I like to compare training. And I know, Rick, your son made this comment to you one time about, you know, stop telling you people that you're just like the military, because you're not, you know. And there's a lot of ways that the fire service is not like the military, and we know that, right? About following rules and wearing a uniform and stuff like that. But I'll tell you what, the military is the organization to look at. You know, if you're in the military, you are training constantly. There's steps that you must follow. There's training courses and programs that you must complete, like to either to re-up your enlistment or to get considered for promotion down the line. And there's reading lists. The Marine Corps has reading lists of books that you should be reading in each rank that you're in. And a lot of fire departments don't provide that. And that's not a terrible thing to provide. You know, hiring a good training officer and developing a good training program in a fire department, you can turn it into an interesting element of the job rather than some requirement, rather than some, oh, it's training time. Oh, God, we got to train again today. You know, I remember when Brian was working with Sam Hiddle. Sam Hiddle's a captain in Wichita in a rescue company. And I visited that day because he happened to be on duty, and so was Sam. Sam was a captain of rescue, and Brian was working in the engine in the same quarters. And at one point, I went in the kitchen for a cup of coffee. A firefighter brought me in there for a cup of coffee. And they had nice recliners in there and a radio and a TV. And I said, you guys spend much time in here? He said, not when Sam's working. When Sam's working, we spend about 6 hours a day out on the apparatus floor. I said, what? He said, I'm not exaggerating. We spend a lot of time training here. And you wouldn't even consider coming to the station if you didn't like training, because they really do spend a lot of time training, you know. And so all that's very important. I thought that lateral training process was interesting, how there were guys showing up with 5 years under their belt that Goose Creek said no thank you to, you know. And if you set a standard and you live by it, and you said this 1,000 times, Rick, you don't hire people and they don't turn into trouble. You hire troublesome people. And if you have a good hiring process, you're probably going to have a good workforce. And like Chief Taylor said, and you're going to attract more good people when you have good people. You know, that's the real bait. The real bait is having good people already, and word of mouth saying, who's hiring? Goose Creek, Wichita, Pearland. The guys hear that, and they're the ones knocking on the door. They're the ones calling up for the application. You know,
exactly. It comes down to, like you said, the process and the reputation that your troops are building. There's a reason why we call this one the Pearland, Texas way. We've got one of our partners, Curtis, and we have two of his teammates, his boss, that they're living proof. Jay, you know, you and Jacob and Kurt have this thing going that, you know, it's kind of cool. You see pictures, you know, you're handing someone else a challenge coin as a reward, different stuff like that. I turn around, there's Jacob with his gear on, or you with your gear on, either at training with the troops or at a job or something, where I think there's some other fire chiefs or chief officers out there can't find the fire ground with two hands, a flashlight, and a CNI dog. But we just talked about recognition and about the leadership and what you three guys do, because I know what your guys say about you, and that's a big thing to enjoy working for someone. Because I already mentioned we worked for America's Worst Fire Chief. Jay, you're competitive like me in a good way. You know, you're an athlete.
I don't know if that's a good way or not.
You're an athlete. You were a big time football referee. You get it. You know what I'm saying? You get the team building and that. I wanted to show this to our viewers, and John knows where I'm going with this. We were at Columbia Southern doing a company officer academy. I'm on the advisory board there, and I'm an alum and all that. And they gave us one of their coins, right? They got their challenge coins, and it's got the knights on the back and all, which is cool. But John and I were at dinner with the advisory board, and we're sitting next to the president of the university. He's a great person, gentleman, great guy. And we're bragging on our new rep, Teresa. It was Mimi, it was Tori, it was Megan. We've had some great people. We were bragging on Teresa. And Jay, the president, leans over. He goes, do me a favor. He goes, present her with one of these, this number 8. Okay, everybody, you can make it out there. I'll mark if you can make that or whatever, that number 8. Okay. So he says, he goes, do me a favor and present that to her. Okay. And on the one side, it's the Columbia, Columbia Southern University and all stuff. In the back of it, the 8 is, and Jay, you'll like this. The 8 stands for, if you can make it out, 8 hours off. It says 8 hours off. He says, present it to her because this gets her a day off. The president of the university carries these coins. He goes, look, I don't give them out every day. Trust me. He goes, but as some people, if you're 0 sick time or you do your fitness thing or whatever, you get a day off. He actually has, and I'm talking about the incentives, Jay, that I want you to kind of hit on now because, you said you're the ultimate ambassador. I always say the proof's in the pudding, man. If you want to see, it's not a mirage, man. If you want to see how to do it right, go to Pearland, Texas. But again, they're sitting here. Talk about not just the recruitment part, Jay, because I want Jacob to talk about that as well. Talk about the retention part. I see you don't take pictures because look at me, I'm Chief Taylor again. You take pictures to celebrate the people that are standing next to you. And I think a lot of people forget that when they take pictures with their troops. It's like, no, the camera needs to be here. No, you do it where the camera needs to be on this person. Talk about some of the issues, the great issues, the programs, and the way you as a fire chief in Pearland retain people. It's one thing to recruit people, but the Pearland, Texas way is about retention as well. And I see you do it just on social media. I know what's going on. What are some of the things or one of the ideas behind that?
There's a lot too that I can talk a long time on this subject, but I'm really passionate about it. I think the thing that is most important is as a chief, and I see a lot of chiefs miss the boat on this, and you've seen me write a few articles here and there. And usually when I write an article, it's because of some other, as you call ring knocker chiefs or paper chiefs that write an article about something that is just not the way they actually operate, or that's not actually the way they are. And that can be frustrating. You have to be sincere and you have to care about your people. And I think the very first aspect of that is you've got to love your people and you've got to be sincere in your approach.
Is it okay to say love? Is it okay to say love?
No, I say it all the time. I say, love you, brother. And I mean it. And I had an interesting discussion with one of my battalion chiefs recently, Michelle Braswell, and she won't mind me sharing her name, but she is wonderful. And unfortunately, she's probably going to retire in the next few months, but she's an asset to this department, brings a lot to the table. And she told me, she said, Chief, when you came in 3 years ago, you and Stacy talked about how I get emotional. I get emotional too. But, she said, you talked about how you love your people, you love it here, and y'all are going to be here and you're here to stay. And she said, and she said this herself, she goes, my police mentality, because she's also, TCOL certified. She said, I thought there's no way that's true. They don't feel that way. And she's come around. She's been here with me 3 years. And she said, you're actually that way. She goes, you really are. You care about our people and you love your people. I said, yeah, I do. I take it. And it's hard, because you love your people and the good things happen. You want to celebrate that. And you think you have them get hurt and you have a Mayday fire, somebody gets injured, and they're your children. I mean, you have to look at it as you're a parent and you're trying to, at the end of the day, make them have every tool and opportunity to be as successful as they possibly can at the end of the day. And how do we best encompass that? Well, there's no better way to encompass that by practicing what you preach and leading by example and being out in the middle of it and not getting dirty with, the boots on the ground, the folks next to you, and getting to know them on a personal basis. Because if you get to know people on a personal basis, that begins to build that trust, that mutual respect. And it just, we live a third of our lives together. I don't anymore. I've got banker's hours, but when we're down here and we're out in the firehouse, we live a third of our lives together. And I always say that we know our folks in our fire family as well, or sometimes better than our own family. And as you get to learn about people, that it builds that trust and that commitment. Now, for us, getting out to the firehouse and walking in a firehouse, it's always at the forefront of our minds. But as you know, that's difficult to do because you're always being pulled in other directions by City Hall or other departments or other people that need your time. And you have to be really efficient with the time and how you manage that. And I catch them when I can. I catch them on the training field. I catch them in fire administration when they come through here. That's where all our training occurs. But I still now on Fridays when I'm working, I try to go hit a couple, 2 or 3 stations every Friday and just go sit and visit, just laid back and catch them in their environment and see what their issues are and just talk about everything from hunting to football to you name it. And I think that you've got to be sincere about building those personal relationships. I think there's a lot of insincerity or just a sterile nature that some command staffs or some chiefs have, where they put the doctrines in place, but there's no passion behind it. And everything I do with 100% passion. And my dad used to say, if you're going to F up full speed. And that's my motto. And I've always been that way. And, but I take that to heart. And I think
it needs to be on a challenge coin.
Yeah. If you go full speed, if you go full speed and your passion and your mindset's in the right direction, that's when I got here. I had a lot of firefighters that were looking over their shoulder, waiting for that pendulum to hit them, the guillotine to hit them. That we make a wrong decision or we do something incorrect, and is the command staff going to get us? No. If you're going full speed, you're doing things for what is right for the citizens we serve and the people you work with, we're going to back you 100%. That's what we're here to do, is support you. We're not here to come down on you. Now, if somebody needs to they get outside the ditches a little bit, you tap them back inside the ditch. We have that conversation. But for everybody else, you take the talents that you have. Everybody has specialized talents that we harness. We give them ownership. We give them the ability to use those talents to make our organization better. Whatever it is, if you're great at extrication, you want to be an honor guard, you're great in EMS, you're great in designing apparatus, or you want to be part of the training committee. What's your passion? Because we want you, because all the great ideas we put in place in this organization have come from the boots on the ground. We didn't reinvent the wheel. We're not geniuses. If I walk in a room and there's one other person, usually, or even two, I'm not the smartest person in the room, and I know that. And so I understand that when I walk in there, those ideas are coming. But if you're going to bring me an idea, great, bring me a solution. I want that. So that's that mindset. We're always cultivating ideas, and we're going with that. And through that, our culture has really started to advance. We had a good culture here. We had I'll be honest, I inherited a lot of abused children here that just needed some love and leadership. That's what it's all about. And so we've come a long way in a short period of time, but I do love my people. And you know that when I get talking about this, I get excited, and these guys laugh at me as I get on my coach speak and I get on the soapbox, but it's all about X's and O's and having being deliberate in how your approach is, but being consistent about that approach and knowing that you have the love and the support of your command staff to, hey, we're going to, at the end of the day, we've got your back. And if you do something that I can't defend, you put me in a defenseless situation, that's another situation. But as long as I have a leg to stand on, I'm going to fight to the death for you. And we all have that approach. We have that mindset, and we hold each other accountable. Chief Johnson will tell you, I'll come and I'll say, what's going on here? Because he knows I'll come hold him accountable, but I'll hold myself accountable as well. And it goes all the way down through that. I think that consistency in leadership, consistency in expectations and accountability. And now what we're starting to see is self-accountability out in the field. Our boots on the ground are starting to hold each other accountable. They're starting to say, we don't do it that way. Here's how we do it. And when you start seeing those conversations start evolving, you know you're heading in the right direction because they bought into the concepts. You're always going to have that 5% that aren't completely bought in. We've had a few that have gone on to other places and they've made our department better because of it. I'll be honest. And we've had some that have wanted to come back and they're not coming back. But because we owe it to the people that we have here, just like in Goose Creek, you're not putting butts in the seats just to put them there. You have to have quality to put in there. And if we don't have quality, we'll go to the next test. And we'll wait till we have the quality to fit those needs because we owe it to the people that we have here and the citizens we serve to put the elite in here. And we won't settle for anything else.
And Chief, you said something I want to throw because I'm there's a guy sitting on my left here on the screen named Jacob Johnson. He's a world and a tornado full of passion for the fire service. I'm going to ask him a question. You mentioned about the passion, the desire, and the love. And it's kind of funny. You made me think of something. I don't want to embarrass you. But no, actually, I'm going to embarrass you. So, I'd done some programs for Pearland before even Curtis was there. And, they hired my one of my best friends, Curtis Burt, there. And so he's doing great. And I know it's got to be a great place for Curtis to work there because I'll be honest, he's very picky where he works. If he can't be part of somewhere special, he's not going to be. So I've made a lot of friends there over the years. And when you're in the process, when you made that decision, I'm going to see if, Pearland's a good fit. And they're like, oh, we got to hire this guy. I had a couple of your guys ask me, tell me about Chief Taylor and all this. And I went, And I'll be honest, I said this about one other person before, and he's sitting not too far from you. And I said, I don't think I can be impartial on this. I can't do this. I know the guy. I can't tell you this. If you want a boss who loves the job, if you want a boss who loves his people, if you want a boss that's going to be there and you don't have to go chase him off the golf course, if you want a boss that wears a uniform and wears a helmet and is out there and shows up on calls and that truly cares about you and your family, then Jay Taylor is the one you want as your next chief. Now, if you don't want that, then shame on you. But I will tell you this: if you love the job just a little bit, you'll be gold with him. If you don't love it, he'll help you. He'll try and get you there. But if you don't bring something to the table, eventually you can be working for Beeperville, wherever, because he's way, like I am, competitive. If he can't be part of the best, like I talked about Curtis and Jacob and John, he doesn't want to be. And I remember saying that, and guys were like, I'm watching it, and I didn't even realize they're getting all excited because I think they'd been through a rough road for a little bit. And they're like, we got Chief Bird here, man. Things started changing. We got, because who doesn't love Curtis? All right. He's into the job and everything else. He's a great boss. He gets it. And now I'm sitting there going on and on and on about this guy. And it wasn't about, God bless, it wasn't about like, well, he's got a PhD in this, which is all important. He's got this. It was about your passion and your love for the job. Who wants to work for a fire department or for a fire chief that doesn't give a crap about their people? I don't know anybody. And we hear it, John, you and I hear guys, our chief sucked. We never see it. And now they got a guy.
They get hired every day.
He's the one that's carrying. He's the one with the, what is that stoker thing, whatever. He's the bellows. He's the one. He's the one that keeps the coals going. He's the one walking around. So Jacob, through the classes you teach, the articles you write, you're one of those who I love who's into the fire service. There's a reason why we all talk and visit, and I'll speak for John as well. He's my best friend. We hang with people that love the job. Look at this panel, that love the job so much you can't help but admire them. How important is it for an assistant chief in your position for the troops to see not only the chief's passion or Chief's Bird's, but talk about your personal passion selfishly in Pearland, which is a great recruiting tool for people that want to be on a great fire department. How important is that passion, and what do they see from you?
So I think all of our ranks, we have to set the tone with the passion, and we have to set the mindset and the culture with what it takes to truly care about your people and then love the job. And for me, being in this role, we were talking about it right before this show, it's our job as members of this fire department to absolutely love this fire department. And if we don't love it, then you can leave it and you don't have to work here. And there is another fire department or Beeperville or anywhere else that you can go work, because I think the thing that frustrates me the most all through the years, and even more now as an assistant chief, is seeing members from other fire departments bash their fire department. And so when you have that mindset, or when you want to call yourself a reject, or when you want to call yourself a uncommon firefighter or a misfit, or any of those terms out there, I don't think that you're in love with the job. I think you're just in love with the outside look that brings in, trying to put yourself on a pedestal rather than your fire department. And I think that we hammer each other for being freelancers, but then we think that terms like that or ideals like that are cool, even though it makes you a freelancer within your fire department. So I think it's important for me to continuously push the love of the job here in Pearland and to push the love that we have for our people. I think it's important to understand that the brotherhood is not a word, it's an action, and that I have to show that each and every day. And I have to be intentful with my conversations. And when people walk in the office, or when they bump into me on the training ground or on the fire scene, stop what you're doing and look at them in the face and make eye contact with them and truly be involved in that conversation. And when they ask you for advice, don't give them blanket advice. Give them advice that you've been through, that you've learned from. Let them see your passion through your words and your actions, and share your mistakes and share your lessons learned over the years. I was talking yesterday on the way home. I was talking with Pablo Jenner from Jacksonville Fire Department. And I was telling him, I said, I don't have much longer left on this job. And I know that's weird for me to say because I am a younger member, but I have less than 20 years left. And I sure hope that this next 20, I can provide the quality of impact that I was trying to learn how to provide the first 20. And I hope that I can provide a career for my members and for those around me and for those that I talk to. I hope that I can provide a path for them to have a career that they deserve and desire. I hope that I can share all of my mistakes and all of my lessons learned and all the times that I've been humbled and humiliated the first 20 years and be able to pass those lessons on to others so they don't struggle some of the ways that I struggled. And I hope that I can provide a path for them that gives them the career that I've had, because even with all the highest of highs, I still feel that they are supported by the lowest of lows. And that those moments of those low moments are what truly make you love this job and truly make you have the passion that you need to be successful at this job and to pass that on to the next generation. And I think if we get back to that as a fire service in general, but more importantly, within our own fire departments, I think we're going to make the job and your fire department better.
Well, and you just said something that you talked about, the image and the passion and all the different things we've been talking about, and about the new guys that we're hiring, that if it's not a good fit for you, there's another fire department down the road. I think is just as important, not just to talk to the brand new guy or gal that just got hired. I think if you want to see the true measurement, if a department has their act going in the right direction, talk to the 4 to 7, 8-year firefighter. The new guy or gal, they're great. That's the future of the fire service. But a lot of them are just fired up. They're just happy to be alive and be on the job. But the person that's been in that department for the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years or whatever, I think that's always a good. They're not the 25, 30, maybe, trying to find their passion again. I think that's the great measuring stick sometimes, is to find someone within that range. And when you find they're into it, when you find that they're fired up about, like what you just talked about, Jacob, I think you've hit a home run. Curtis, you've taught at a ton of fire academies. All right. You ran fire academies. You sat on the state of Illinois, the Division of Personnel Standard Education, the Fire Marshal's Office, Technical Advisory Board, writing the curriculum for tech rescue and all the tech rescue. Your academy days, and even now, what do you think we need to be doing in the fire academies, all right, to promote the Pearland way, the recruitment that you work for the ultimate coach, okay, Chief Taylor, you already work for the ultimate coach when it comes to that. In the academies, what should they be doing recruitment wise, aside from just going march, do this, which is all important. I get that, and being in a job and browsing and getting it. What should they be doing to get people that want to go to the special places, not the mirages, the places that really have it going, like Pearland? What did you do and what did you see back then that you wanted to?
One of the big things we did this, and we really tried to do this in our high school programs, was get them to see the whole picture. Sometimes in these academies, we're so scared about the state coming in and auditing us, or we're so worried about following the check marks from IFSTA or whatever book you're using, and we forget to teach them the job. That was one of the things I always brag about, where we come from, and you and I teaching at Illinois Fire Service Institute and having a lot of
great years
love for that place. But when I was in the academy back there, way back, they taught us as much about the job as they taught us about throwing a ladder, as they did how to live in a firehouse, how to take care of people, how you wanted to love this job, all that was into it. And I think sometimes we get into these academies, or academies are so set up with making sure somebody, we do all 7 hose loads. Well, yeah, but we're wasting a lot of time not teaching people how to pull hose loads. And we have to think outside the box to give them the full meal deal, so that when they do get to these fire departments, they understand the other side of the life, or how they're going to succeed. Because hopefully when they graduate academy, they're throwing ladders like nothing. We got 1 man 24, we're getting it up. We're doing it in the fastest time ever. But how do you function when you're in the firehouse? How do you be a person? How do you be a member of the fire department? How do you get along with the other firemen? How do you, start to love this job? We've really talked a lot about that here when we come into hiring people, is let's stop hiring for certs. Let's hire for attitude. Let's hire for passion. Let's hire for, the way they're going to be and the way they treat people. If you don't hire a good human being, you're never going to have a good person. So in the academies, we were really trying to not only have the technical skills or be technical professionals, as the chief says, but also be technical people and being firefighters. We always say put firefighters back in the firehouse. If we don't teach them that until they're at a firehouse, how do they succeed, or how do they not get off on the right foot? So, in the academies in Illinois and stuff, we used to teach them to make coffee. We used to teach them to take care of the firehouse. We used to teach all that so that we didn't have the guys on the street or the senior men that are assigned these people when they get them saying, this kid doesn't even know how to mop the floor. He was never taught that. We're in the second or third generation where our parents never changed their own oil or mowed their own lawns. So how do we expect a firefighter to change the spark plug on a chainsaw or change the blade when they don't know what a plus and a minus screwdriver is? So we have to teach that stuff. So it's going back and sometimes picking up some of those things that in our day was taught generationally, may not be part of it today, but we have to go back and pick those up. And it's our job as instructors and leaders in this business to be able to mold ourselves to what the new folks need, not the other way around.
And I love that message about we need to train more than John and I have heard that before. Hey, Chief Salka, Chief Lasky, we don't need another sticker class. As much as that's important, we need the real stuff. Which John, I gotta actually ask John, and I want to throw more Jay to our listeners.
Before you ask it, I just want to comment on what Curtis just said. Okay. And without blowing smoke up my own fire department's tail here. That's one thing that they really, really, really do well at the FDNY Proby School. I taught one class there. I managed to sneak my way in and teach one Proby class before I made captain. And, so I saw it from the inside a little bit, but having experienced it myself and then just knowing what the job does. At the FDNY Fire Academy, Proby School, let's call it, they teach them not only all the technical stuff. I almost said nonsense, but it's not nonsense. It's all important stuff. But they teach them all about the job. I mean, those two words mean a lot in the FDNY, the job, and about expectations, what they're expected to do when they get to the firehouse. Nowhere in Firefighter 1 or any other class that you take, I don't know if anybody tells you to come in early, come in an hour early. Make sure you're in an hour early. Make sure you do this. Make sure you do that. Make sure you talk to your officer, whoever you're relieving, make sure you talk about, where their gear is and if everything was working well, the kitchen routine, sitting down for a meal, when you can go to bed. I mean, 45 engine, I'm sure a lot of companies have it. We got 300. They get the 10 commandments. You get it. This is after you get out of the academy. You go to the firehouse. The firehouse has a whole expectation, a page of 10 commandments at 45 engine of things that you are completely and fully and absolutely expected to comply with. And it's not a punishment thing. It's if you want to join a group, if you want to be in this club, here's what you got to do. Yeah, and at the academy, they really do break them in well, from the schedule to the attitude to how to talk or when not to talk and how to treat senior people, and a lot of stuff that we teach in our company officer academy. And it's just really all important stuff that you can take all the Firefighter 1 classes you want. You can take Firefighter 1, Firefighter 2, Firefighter 3. You could go right out to executive fire officer, and then you could show up at a firehouse. And if you're not ready to go, if you're not going to be part of the team, if you're not going to be part of the brotherhood, and those are some of the things you got to learn, you're not going to fit in with all the technical skills in the world.
Well, and exactly. And the question, you set me up perfectly for this one. And folks, we're going to go past the top of the hour, a couple of minutes. And Mark's always good, our producer, with this, because Jay, I have a closing question for you that I'd like you to share with some people, your thoughts. But John, you mentioned a class before when you worked for Lieutenant Pete Lund on Rescue 3. You talked about Rescue 2 when he was on Rescue 2 as being an impact company. And when I was Wichita West for Chief Brian Fetzer, our good friend, when I was a training officer there, I used to tell the guys, if we're the best in the West, you have to be the best in the West. Just like the Pearland's, like, no disrespect to anybody else. They're like, you know what, we're better than you. And they say that with gusto in a good way, not an arrogant way, because they can back it up. It's like, you want to be the best, come work for Pearland. And I used to tell our volunteers, we need to be an impact fire department. Like you got South Blooming Grove. When South Blooming Grove shows up at a fire, they have impact on the fire. We're not Rescue 2. Like you said, Rescue 2 used to show up. Impact company meant they had impact. They were going to have impact on the results of that fire in a good way. I used to say, that's what we need to be. That goes back to, what Jacob said. We turn out quickly. We got our tools. We got our gear. We're the impact company. How is that a recruiting? You mentioned Wichita. You mentioned Goose Creek. How is that an attraction? Being an impact fire department with one station or impact fire department with 20 stations. When you're looking for people, why do people want to be part of an impact company or fire department?
Well, I mean, why do people that play baseball want to play for the Yankees? Why do people? What I'm saying? Like in every endeavor that people are involved in, whether it's a career, whether it's selling insurance, whether it's firefighting, whether it's playing baseball, everybody wants to work for the All-Stars. Everybody wants to go to the All-Star game. Everybody wants to be at the top of their game, right? So why wouldn't you advertise that? Why wouldn't you promote that like Chief Taylor does in his fire department and say, you want to join the best, or you want to be with the rest? You want to be part of our team? And like you said, that phrase at Rescue 2, I learned that years and years and years ago. Rescue 3 never said that. We never said that about ourselves. But I know the first time I heard it was about Rescue 2. And Rescue 2 will not hesitate. Nobody in Rescue 2 back then or now, I don't know anybody who works there now, but I know a lot of guys that went through Rescue 2 over the years. It's an absolute impact company. There's no doubt about it. If you have any doubt about who the best, sharpest, most rapid, most well-trained, bravest, scariest guys on a fire scene are, just look around for a number 2 on a helmet, And I worked for great companies. Every company I worked with had great guys in, including Rescue 3. And Pete Lund, God rest his soul, it was just his 20th anniversary. He died 20 years ago. It feels like 20 days ago. But and he brought that impact company attitude with him up to Rescue 3. And he was the guy that rode the front seat when I was in the box in the back. And I'll tell you what, it was contagious. It was contagious. We never used the term. We never thought, we're like Rescue 2 now, because God forbid we throw you off the rig if you ever said that. But we did start to act like it, and we did start to act like we're here. We roll up to the scene. We're here. Everybody should be thinking that. You shouldn't necessarily be saying it. You're not going to make a lot of friends that way, but you should be thinking that when you pull up to the scene of a fire, whether you're riding the front seat, whether you're a guy in the back, whether you're the junior fireman in the back, in the crew compartment, you should be thinking every arrival, every time you arrive at a scene of anything, you should be thinking, we're here. We're going to make a difference now. And if you promote that attitude, whether it's a lieutenant in your company on your shift, or maybe a captain or a company commander, maybe his whole company, the 2 or 3 or 4 shifts that you have, it will become noticeable and believable, and it'll have an impact on your people.
It's like that phrase you hear all the time, about the devil. The moment he heard your feet hit the ground when you got out of bed, the devil said, "Oh shit, he's up again." You know what I'm saying? Because good things. So
we're here. Yep.
Chief Taylor, I wanted you to. I think you had something about that, because I had a specific question though too. I wanted to hit you with, but what do you have about the whole impact part of it?
I think the impact is just a winner's mindset, Rick. That's what it is. It's about being impactful because you're setting the standard. You're going above and beyond. You're the ones that when you show up, everybody looks and says, shit's about to get done because they're here. And that's the mentality you want to have. And, pardon my French, but it really is about having a winner's mindset and wanting to set the standard. And we want to be the department in our area that others want to emulate. And when they start asking for the procedures we have in place, the training programs we have in place, apparatus that we're building, all those components, it's because we have great people that are wanting to do impactful things, not just when they go to mitigate a fire, but when we're doing things and setting standards with the programs that we have, they're making a difference. People are noticing that, and that's impactful because you're doing something that others within your own profession are noticing and asking questions about and wanting to get your expertise or your feedback on that. And when you start having that occur and our folks are seeing that they're doing impactful things and that's being noticed and other departments are wanting to get that information and we want to share it because we want everybody sharing the wealth. Like I said, we didn't invent it. We're just taking what works for us, molding it and morphing it to what works for the Pearland way. And we're happy to share that with anybody else so that they can take it to see how it fits their department and serves their citizenry in a positive vein. But it's all about a winner's mindset and raising the bar and continuing to get better every day, taking responsibility for your own actions, having a buy-in mindset that you take total buy-in in everything that you're doing, but you have that mindset that you want to get better every day. And our crews do that. Our people have that mindset, and it's fun to watch them because when we go on scenes with other departments, we run a lot with our big beast to the north, Houston, and we run with them a lot in a certain area of town. We fight a lot of fires with them in another district that we both come help that district. And the mutual respect there from where maybe it was several years ago now to where when Pearland shows up, they know, you know what, they're going to get, they work at our level, and we know that we can rely on them, and we have a great rapport with them now. That's because of the great things that our people are doing. And that's just having that winner's mindset. And John hit it, you know, talking about the training at FDNY, they're exceptional about that. But one thing they do, maybe they do hire blanket amount of people that come into FDNY, but once they get into the training portion of it, they've got to have the passion, or they're not going to make it through there. So there is that level of passion, that level of meeting a standard that you have to maintain before you're ever put out there on the streets. And so, yeah, they may have to bring a lot of numbers in, but they're not going to pass muster. And if they don't pass muster, they won't make that next step. And that's where maybe we do that on a smaller level here. We don't have people showing up like back in the day that grew up on ranches or came out of the military or had all that hands-on experience. We have a lot of young people now that maybe didn't have that opportunity to learn how to use tools or have that opportunity. We have a lot of firefighters that were raised by single moms. That's nothing against them. They learned a lot of great things and had wonderful moms that did that and taught them a lot, but maybe they didn't know how to, like Curtis said, change a spark plug in a saw. But you know, we as firefighters have to learn to change our approach and how we teach, because they learn different now. They don't all learn the way we learned. They're not all maybe completely hands-on. But if they have the passion, they're going to learn it. We just need to change the way maybe we approach them and how we teach and instruct, and give them every opportunity to succeed. Because if they have the passion, they've got it in them. We just got to figure out a way to reach that.
Well, Chief, everyone on the show today has mentioned something you just mentioned, and I want to end with this because the Pearland Fire Department. Now, anytime somebody puts the word, John and I talk about this in class, and we promote this. Every time someone puts the word somewhere on a whatever, they say the word diversity, you get people to start rolling their eyes. And I will say this: Pearland's one of the most diverse fire departments I've ever been around. Everything you want to see in a workforce is represented there. And I think what people miss, Jay, and I want to ask you, the keys to being that type of an organization where it appeals to all peoples is it's not just about race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, all that. You know, the whole word is like, you just said it, different upbringings, different educations, different thought processes, different crowds. I grew up in the South Side of Chicago. My high school yearbook picture looked like the League of Nations. We had everything represented there. So I was kind of used to that. We were all, you know, if we didn't like you, it's because you're an asshole. It had nothing to do with what church you went to. How important is it to when you're looking to recruit, to promote that, where it's not looked at, unfortunately, sometimes as a negative thing? You said it. We changed our testing process because we were teaching people strictly to pass a test before anything else. Curtis, you said that, you know, where we said, okay, the test is going to be, the written, the cognitive things going to be important, but so is this, and so is this, and so is this. And you look at the most, like a Pearland, you've got everything represented there, every walk of life. You've got people that have every degree in the world. You have people that have never been in a college classroom. You know what I'm saying? And you've got people, and they all share the same passion. So when I talk about diversity, my diversity goes well beyond just the big 5 or 6. You know what I'm saying? It has to do with upbringing, like you said. How important is it when you're recruiting people to show that representation that, you know what, you said it, if you got passion, you can come work for Chief Taylor and his team. How important is it to prove or show people that we look for passion more than anything else? And that's how you get a diverse workforce.
That's extremely important, because I think that diversity of thought and mind is what makes us better and makes us achieve and excel. And we've all seen it. We've seen those departments out there, especially back in the day, that they all looked the same. They thought the same. They did everything the same way, but they were in a cocoon because they never grew. They never expanded, and they didn't accept those that were different than them. This department is special. And I noticed that. It's one thing that really attracted me when I was down here and got to actually put my own boots on the ground here and look people eye to eye, is that there is a lot of diversity in this department. We're not a huge department. You know, there's 182 in our organization. There's 138 in operations. We are very diverse, but it's because the people here embrace passion. They don't look past that. And so if you have passion to be here and you're going to do the job and do it the right way, we don't care if you're a spotted dog. It's okay. We will take you, do the job. We're going to work together and we're going to get better together. And it's amazing to me how we have that diversity. We hire passion. When I talk about hiring passion, it's not, I wanted to be a firefighter since I was 5 years old. I didn't know I wanted to be a firefighter until I was 28 years old. I thought I wanted to be Roger Staubach. I wanted to be an NFL quarterback. That was my goal. And you can relate to that, Rick. And so, you know, I didn't know till late in life, but I had passion to do the job the right way. Whatever job I was going to do, it's 110%. That's the person you want. Somebody that's they're going to learn it the right way. They're going to have the passion to do it the right way. They're going to treat people the right way. That civility we talked about. And it's not being fun suckers. It's just treating people with respect. And, we say, have fun, get stuff done. That's what we do around here. So I'm trying to keep my language at the minimum here. So, but it is about that diversity of thought. Diversity of thought makes you better as an organization.
Yeah, diversity
of thought, it always makes you better. And if you embrace passion and you take people for that passion and give them an opportunity and don't prejudge. I don't see that in this department. People don't prejudge, and we do that wide amount of diversity we have. I'll argue that the big department I had with 440 firefighters, this one was more diverse when I stepped foot here. And just because it just happened to be that way, but it's because the people here they take you for what you're worth. If you'll come do the job and you have a right attitude and they accept you, they'll put their arm around you and they'll help you every step of the way. And if you're not, you're going to flake out and you're going to go to that other podunk department, wherever it is, and have fun and go excel at that department. But you're not going to fit here because we've got a standard here and we're not going to lessen our standard, and we're not going to hire somebody and put their butt in a seat just because they're here. They've got to meet that standard and have that passion. Here I go again. I'm getting my coach speak, but I get really fired up about that because it's so important. But you cannot relax that level of integrity and that level of where you want your department to be, because I've got an entire organization that every decision we make, it affects the masses, and we've got to look at it that way with every decision. So what's in the best interest of our entire department? And passion will get you through at the end of the day.
Well, and like I said, that's why I brought that up, because you and I share the same thought that word diversity has a much more broader term. You know, it has to do with your background, your upbringing, with everything to consider the best candidate, along with everything else brought into it. Chief, I know you guys are very open. I know people are visiting there all the time. If somebody wanted to stop by, I know they can go to any one of your firehouses and they'll be greeted with open arms and a cup of coffee or a glass of tea, you know, that kind of thing. If they want to get a hold of you, Chief, if another chief wants to go, okay, Jay, how the hell are you pulling this shit off? You know, well, here's, you know, Salk will ask you, it's Pearland. How do I do? How do they get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you?
They can reach out to me anytime, obviously on LinkedIn, Jay Taylor, Pearland Fire Department. You look at me through there. Facebook, Jay Taylor again. Obviously, my email address here at work is jgtaylor@pearlandtx.org and .gov, excuse me. I got that wrong, didn't I, Jacob? It's jgtaylor@pearlandtx.gov, and reach out to me anytime. I'm happy to help any way I can. Like I said, I don't know all the answers, but we've hit a lot of landmines, you know, going through this and throughout my 32 years. And, you know, Curtis has been doing it even longer than I have, even though I'm 3 months older than him. He's a lot wiser and a lot more knowledgeable than I am. So then Jacob's he's our walking history book of this department, and he knows the skeletons in the closets, and he has the passion, he has the want to, and he's been, you know, with that experience from other departments as well. But we're all easy to contact, love to talk to people all the time. We have people reaching out a lot, asking us questions. We're happy to share that. And that's what it's all about. And anytime, you know how it is, you share information and you have that interaction, you're going to learn something from the other side. So we get better every time we do that, as well as we learn something we didn't know. Well,
you guys are the first ones that we thought. When I asked John, because Curtis and John Scott, we never have it. We don't use a script. I have the date for the next show written down, but we don't. That's our rule. And I said, John, I said, what do you think about this topic? I'm going to hit Curtis up for it. You know, I want to make sure his guys, how about we had the Pearland guys and let's talk recruitment. And he goes, perfect. That's a perfect topic. And he started talking. I want to go, no, save it for the show. Save it for the show. So if you Google Chief Taylor, you'll see one or two pictures. You see that Heisman pose, or you'll see him with that referee hat on with a whistle in his mouth on a football field. Jay, thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much. I love you with all my heart. Jacob, if someone, and I'm going to throw this out there, if somebody wants you away from Pearland to come and visit with them, teach for them, talk to them, or they want to talk about the Pearland way, what are a couple of the best ways to get a hold of you?
Same thing. You can hit me up on LinkedIn or Facebook, just my name, Jacob Johnson. And then you can shoot me an email to jacobjohnson012@gmail.com.
And I'm telling you, every time we've been down there for a class, whether John and I separate or together, we've said this before, the proof's in the pudding. When you have the big bosses sitting in the classroom all day with you, instead of, well, I'm too busy to be there, which we're all busy. I understand that. And I don't think I've ever been down there where I haven't been around, Chief Taylor, you or Kurt or whatever. You guys are, Jacob, you are intimately involved with everything there in such a great way. And the proofs and how the troops feel about you. So my brother Curtis, my brother from another mother, Kurt, if they want to get a hold of you, buddy, how they do it?
Yeah, you can get through me here at the department, or my email is cbirt, BIRT@me.com.
Okay. Hugs to everybody at home. All right. Hugs to Phoebe and the boys and that. John, if they want to get a hold of you, best way?
ChiefJohnSalka@gmail.com.
All right. I'm Chief Lasky at gmail.com. And look, every Wednesday, we've got some great Humpday Hangouts with some great people going on here with different hosts. John, Curtis, and Scott and I have the third Thursday of the month, noon Central Time, so you can figure that out on your clock. Hopefully one day we'll have things figured out there too as well. Our next show is June 18th, again, that third Wednesday. Fire Engineering, like I said, they not only have great Hump Days, they have great podcasts in the evening, some great shows. All you got to do, go to that ribbon bar at the top of what you're looking at right now, unless you're already on YouTube. Everything's up there that you need, from Firefighter Nation to fire apparatus to everything at fireengineering.com. As we close things out here with any show that we do, and I know with even the extra shows that John and I do, we always close it with this one thought. Please keep the men and women in armed forces in your thoughts and prayers. And remember this, never forgetting means never forgetting. Guys, Chief, Jacob, thank you so much for joining us. God bless you. We love y'all. Thanks, everybody. Be careful. See you next time.
Yeah.
Love you guys. Thank you.